Welcome to my pantry. I think this is my favorite room in the house because I feel inspired when I come in here, and I feel like when I don't know what to cook in a certain day, I just come in here and I see what ingredients I have on hand. And then most of the time I don't have to make too many trips to the grocery store, except for fresh things, but there's so many different ingredients that I keep on hand and, just make me think of different additions to recipes and substitutes for things that a recipe calls for. And so it's a lot of fun. So let me sort of walk you through what I have. Now, I try to be really organized, and it gets hard after a while after you start to collect lots of things, but I do try for the most part to keep things in sections, so very similar things in particular sections, so I always know where to find, for example, all my different types of flour. So I've got my gluten-free flours, my vegetable flours, my fruit flours, the almond flours that I make. I know I've shared some recipes for making almond milk, so I keep all of that almond meal in large glass jars, and I'm always on the lookout for large glass jars at vintage shops, thrift stores, wherever I can find them inexpensively, because they just make great storage. And I label them using painter's tape. So if you can see, it's green, and I just use permanent markers, and I write obviously what's in each jar, but it's also because they come off really easy, and so it doesn't ruin anything. It doesn't take time to change it. And then once the ingredients are gone, I know what I need to refill. And if things sit around too much, then I say, I probably don't need to rebuy those because I don't use that particular ingredient for very long. So in addition to things like flours, I also keep, of course, my spices in here. And I keep my overflow spices in here. So my large or bulk spices, because my smaller bottles I keep closer to the oven, and that's just to keep it efficient, so when I'm cooking I just go and grab what I need. But for the overflow, for example, I don't need 20 cinnamon sticks to sit by me in the oven, and anytime they're by the heat they're gonna get ruined. So I keep larger containers here for all of my spices. I do tend to buy things in bulk, so I get the really larger jars, like for sea salt. I kind of can't pass some of this stuff up when I find interesting salts and things like that. So those are in here as well. Also, I keep these sort of clear storage boxes for things like flavors and extracts and syrups, because there's so many little bottles, and if I just put them on the shelf, I won't be able to find them. So I just keep them in a clear plastic container, so I know all of my flavored things are in here. And any of my homemade extracts, for example, any types of syrups that I add to drinks and smoothies and ice cream and things like that, it all goes here. And I talk a lot about, halal alternatives and substitutes, right? So all of my different types of gelatins they also go inside of a box, because there are lots of different types of gelatin. There's powders, and there's flakes, and there's bars of gelatin. So I just kind of keep it all in one spot. Otherwise they'll be everywhere. So it may not be perfect, but I know it's all in one spot. I keep all my nuts and seeds and popcorn and things like that in here too. But what I also do is I keep things like linens. I have about 5 or 6 shelves here, and the way I designed the pantry was just sort of measuring out how many ingredients I actually cook with. And if you are able to carve out a space, I suggest measuring out how much space you really need before you build anything, because it can be really useful to just go ahead and put everything that you normally cook with or store into the space. Now if you don't have that option, I think that getting things that fit very efficiently are better, like square jars. For example, let's see where I have one. This one. More jars that are more square, they fit better, and they give you more space. Like you always see round jars, and I have tons of them here, but they don't really give you that much space. They kind of fit awkwardly. So I suggest if you can get square containers, those are a lot better. That's why I like the bins and and things like that, because they just fit nicely. But I also keep things like linens in here because I'm always, I don't want to keep these in a separate spot, because whenever I'm having a party or I want to change my table, I'm always running around in the pantry anyway finding things. So I just decided to keep all of my napkins and tablecloths and things that I'm actually setting the table with, or working in the kitchen with, in here. So they just kind of go on a shelf. I also keep some, because I have open shelving in my kitchen, I don't have a lot of cabinet space, so I tend to keep all of my processors in here. I have mini food processors and choppers and hand blenders, and I just fit them back there, which is fine because that works for me. I keep my cake stands in here too, things that I don't use that often. I just sort of put them up at the top, because oftentimes I'm, looking at decorating a cake or something, and I'm grabbing all the ingredients, and then I also want to grab the kind of cake stand or pan that I want to use, so I kind of keep those in here too. So I kind of keep everything contained to what I'm thinking about doing all the time, and so it's just easier for me to have a lot of that stuff in here. I also keep bulk products like rice and stuff. I haven't even taken this out of the bag, but I do. And I just keep that in here. When it's time to open it up, I'll put it into like a larger container. So I do buy these sort of larger glass jars for things like that I know I need a lot of space for. And another tip for that is, let's see if I have an example. I'm out of my basmati rice because there it is. But for all of my spices and so on, one really good tip is to add bay leaves to everything, because you can tend to get sometimes ingredients, might have bugs or something, that comes in with from where it depends, like where you bought it, or sometimes bugs are just attracted to food. So you want to make sure you get airtight jars so that doesn't happen, but also they don't like things like bay leaves. So I've never had any issue, because I think probably the bay leaves would really help, and the really secure lid. So I tend to really buy anything with these, snaps and the suction, because that's going to keep it fresh, airtight, and bug-free. That's very important. So what else? I also keep some storage bins in here, like my plastic storage or my glass storage, and other specialty items. Like I have a tagine down here. Where else am I gonna put this? So it's just kind of, sitting here and waiting for me to use it for special occasions and things like that. Glass jars and bottles, I tend to use these for parties or for glasses of water. It depends on your lifestyle and how much you entertain and things like that. But I think the trick of the pantry is to keep like things together, and the things that you actually use. Don't buy ingredients and products that just because they're trendy or because people say you should buy them because they're healthy or whatever. Buy what you will use for your family. And I really, really, really think that you get lots of value and good healthy products when you buy dry goods, like dry beans. I get, my fava beans, my black-eyed peas, my chickpeas. I buy them all dried instead of canned. If you notice, I don't have very many canned products here. Sometimes I get them like if I'm, in a really big hurry and I just don't have time or emergency or something like that. But most of this is all dried goods, and that saves me lots of money. It forces me to plan a little bit ahead sometimes, but it also just keeps me cooking the things that I enjoy, that are healthy. And I really don't have anything in here that I wouldn't eat or wouldn't serve to people. So, keep it the way you like it, the ingredients that you want to cook with, and then you don't feel stressed as much during the week, especially when you're really busy. You come in here and it's like your little mini grocery store, looking for the things that you will cook with. And I'm not suggesting overstocking and hoarding things. I'm saying, just keep the stuff that you really will use over and over again. And when it's nice and labeled, when you go shopping and come home, your family can help you put things away. You can do that together because everything is labeled. Get it out of the bag, put it in the jars, and it looks nicer. I'm actually thinking about things that are in bags and how I really need to get those in jars because they just look nicer and they stay fresher and they're out of plastic. So I really like that. And I have lots of work to do in here, and it's a process that's ongoing all the time, but I love it. It's my favorite place to, give me ideas and get creative about, how I want to cook, what I'm going to cook next. And I feel less stressed by just having this little room in my kitchen, and it feels great to be able to explore and have my own little spice house as well.